everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're from. Today, I'm joined by Deepak Goyal, who is the Director of Alliances EMEA at Tipalti, which, as we were saying earlier, it's a bit of a mouthful, Deepak. It's a octacorn, a multi-level. How would you describe it?
Octa-unicorn we started off with, and then it went to octacorn. I think what that means is that we are worth $8 billion or more as a business, which is amazing.
Very impressive. Very impressive. And what is for the viewers and listeners out there? What exactly does Tipalti do in a nutshell?
We are a payables automation business. Our role is to make the act of managing outbound payments in your business completely hassle-free. And that can be for payables that are related to invoices. So, for example, if you're paying rent or you're buying laptops for your business, that usually involves an invoice, to having more non-invoice back payables. That might be where you're paying your influencers or your affiliate partners. They won't be sending you an invoice, but they still need paying via a system. So both sides of the coin we manage. The key here is to enable automation.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want human beings spending their valuable time doing a task that can be automated? And that's the reason why we've succeeded, because since the pennies dropped, a lot of businesses have gone, actually, why do I need expensive human beings to do this when they could be doing much more productive things?
Yeah, cool. And the business started life in Israel. Is that right? But now it's located in the US.
Yeah, so Tipalti, the word Tipalti means we handled it, and it's a Hebrew word.
Okay.
The CEO of our business is from Israel originally. They all now, the management team all now live in San Mateo in North America, and that's the headquarters of our business. We have around about 1,400 people working in Tipalti globally. The vast majority of those are over in North America. We've got a development center still in Israel, which has around about 200 staff. And I'm pleased to say, since launching in the UK roughly 12, 13 months ago now, we're now 90 strong in the UK. And the latest information I can give you is, in fact, yesterday, we launched our European office in Amsterdam. And the team from Amsterdam are actually here in London with us, being enabled and onboarded as we speak. So it's great news.
Gezellig, as they say.
There you go.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, we work together, obviously, Everflow and Polti as partners within the payment processing. So Polti is an option for Everflow customers to initiate their payments automatically through that. And we have a number of shared clients that are using Polti successfully to scale their payment processing to affiliates in the instance that you mentioned. But to maybe take a step back, like if we think about like this better living through automation that we kind of touched on.
I like that.
So where do you see the market at the moment? Like you were saying, in terms of like sketching out the business landscape at the moment, obviously there's a lot of kind of headwinds that seem to be affecting business with inflation and the crash of the kind of stock market, particularly this kind of sassacre that everyone's talking about, where software as a service is being put under increasing sort of commercial lenses. Like, how do you see that, and where do you see like the piece and the value add that Tipalti provides that can help marketeers or people in the space to really gain the value in sort of these quote unquote challenging times, right? And we've seen a lot of fallout across all kinds of tech businesses right now. So how do you guys see the market, and what sectors do you serve? And broadly speaking, what sort of value adds do you provide?
Great question. So let's start with the market question and the environment question first. I think the word of the moment is change and unrest. That's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. We've had a relative good spell of uninterrupted growth throughout many different economies of the world, and everything's gone quite well for the last five years or so. Suddenly we had COVID, and people adjusted really well to that, and we managed that whole problem. And now we've got a situation where it feels like things have fallen over. Now there's a number of contributors to that. There's war, there's political change, there's supply chain issues. There's a number of different reasons for that. And rather than going into each one, let's just accept that there are these headwinds that exist. What does it mean for businesses? Well, they're estimating that in some economies, such as let's say the UK economy, for example, they're estimating this could be up to 5 quarters of recessionary-like pressure on economy. Now, that doesn't mean a crash, but what it means, and everyone that's working in any business will be feeling this already, is that there is more of a thrust towards that there is potentially challenges in the future that we're going to need to overcome. And we know the challenges are coming, and we just need to equip ourselves to deal with those challenges. And I think that's a big difference here. As a world, I suppose, we've got better at predicting when these things are going to happen and calling them out in advance so we can react to them. If you go back 10, 20 years, it was a case of suddenly, oh my God, we're in recession. And nobody really knew what to do. But I think we're much better equipped now. How that plays into what businesses are probably feeling at the moment, and where that's changed the landscape a little. I think even up to 2 years ago, the mantra was "Let's grow, let's grow." We've just dealt with this whole COVID phenomenon. We're now out of that. Let's expand at any cost, right? We want to hire more people. We want to grow our businesses. We want to sell everywhere, and people and companies did that, and they did it very well. Now that these headwinds are approaching, businesses are still maintaining that thrust, that I want to grow objective, but they're thinking, well, should I actually grow efficiently rather than just grow at any expense? And that makes sense, really, if you think about it, to you and I, right? When you know that you're going to have a period of potential uncertainty, well, you don't go and lord it up every night and spend all your money like you would do if you were rolling around in cash. So I think that's just a natural knee-jerk reaction and a good practice for businesses to do, which is to prepare themselves for such future upsets. The way things are going, we're actually seeing that businesses are reacting so well and reacting so quickly because we can foresee these, that in itself may lessen the impact of any negative pressures because we're reacting to them and we can foresee them and we can change direction accordingly beforehand and perhaps even circumnavigate them altogether. So I think that gives a flavour of what I suppose the external pressures are. Within the world of, I suppose, payables, which is where Tipalti operates, and bringing that discussion back to how it affects companies. Well, if you think about it, you've got these inflationary pressures you mentioned at the beginning of the call. You've got potential recessionary pressure. Cost control comes into it. Efficiency comes into it, and at the same time, there's this whole piece around the Great Resignation that happened maybe 6 months or a year or so ago. People's utility and productivity at work is really in the lens at the moment, and people want to be fulfilled in their roles. They want to do more. They want to have productive working lives, and they want to add value. So I believe gone are the days of you getting a job and you do a very manual process, like a data entry clerk or something like that, and you sit there typing away, reading from one screen, putting it into another, and getting paid a reasonable salary for that. I think that's not a very fulfilling job, and it doesn't really add a huge amount of value. I think the world is now moving to a place where automation is something that will really enable businesses to say goodbye to those processes and give staff the fulfillment, and at the same time introduce efficiency into their businesses. So it does win on many levels. And automation, what we're seeing is a lot of businesses, a lot of finance offices within businesses are pursuing automation relentlessly. They're trying to use technology to avoid doing manual, repetitive, robotic processes in the workplace. The temptation is to think, oh, hang on, does that mean that a load of people will suddenly have to leave the business? No. The business has got plenty of demand. In fact, the lack of automation is hampering them from growing efficiently. As they grow, they need those people to be doing much more productive and useful things than entering data onto a computer. And I think that's the crux of it. We are evolving as a race, as a business function within the world we operate in. And I think along with that efficiency in tech goes that productivity increase, that mind, I suppose, elevation into the next level up that a lot of people are searching for at the moment. That's a long-winded way of giving you an answer to that. I hope it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, so for the layperson that was sort of just listening to this, like Tipalti payment and things, there's two sort of big parts of your business, isn't there? Or as you kind of break it down in internally, in terms of like the types of customers that you serve. Is that right? Could you put some more
Yes,
color on that?
of course. So we serve two different market segments, and well, many
Hmm.
different market segments, um, but two key product areas. So I mentioned it before: invoice-backed payments. These tend to be
Hmm.
capital expenditure. I need to buy laptops. I need to pay rent. I need to buy desks. I need to buy equipment. I need to engage consultants. And all of these functions will invoice me. Imagine when you go and do something, you first of all seek a quote. You get a quote, and you accept that quote, and then they deliver the service, and then they'll send you an invoice for it. Somebody's got to be inside a business reading that invoice, reading from it, and saying, yes, this is what I ordered. This is the price that I agreed, and I did receive the product or the service. Yes, and then I need to approve that and ask somebody in my business, can I pay this? Is it okay for me to pay it? And then it needs to be paid, and then it needs to
Hmm.
be noted down in my financial ledgers that it has been paid.
Hmm.
That process is a very, very simplistic way of explaining an accounts payable process. That's
Hmm.
one side of automation that we do. And every
Hmm.
business has an accounts payable need, every single business. The other side, where we provide a service, is where the payments are more digital, or the use case is more digital. So let me give you an example. An Uber driver doesn't submit an invoice to Uber. However, they
Hmm.
get paid from Uber every time
Hmm.
they deliver a ride. An influencer doesn't submit an invoice to the brand that they're working for. They usually connect up to a platform such as Everflow, and it connects up through that platform, and it enables the contract to be managed and also the payables to be delivered automatically. The payment, I suppose, capital, the origination starts from inside the platform. In this case, it's not an invoice; it's a computer that's working out how much needs to be paid based on performance.
Hmm.
And that in those circumstances where there is not an invoice required, well, somebody like me, let's assume that I'm an influencer for a minute. I'm not really used to managing financial processes. I may not even have a way of submitting an invoice. I certainly won't have a finance department. To me, the most important thing is, can I get paid easily and in the right currency at the right time without delays, without having to jump through hoops? And that is something that's critical to the success of the platforms and affiliate systems and performance marketing systems that we all operate in. So again, a long-winded way of saying that there's two types: invoice backed and non-invoice backed payments.
Yeah, and the non-invoice backed obviously is opposite from the accounts payable. And is that how you call it internally? The
Yeah, I mean, we call the non-invoice back payments, we call them global partner payments, because the
Yeah.
influencers, the affiliates tend to be partners of the platforms and the brands rather than customers. I think that's a nice way of describing them, and that's really what they are. They're fundamental to the success of the business.
Yeah, and we're kind of touching on this other thing now. So obviously, listeners of Everflow or people that are familiar with Everflow will be in the performance space. So they
Mm.
may be initially kind of interested in the global partner payments aspects, but obviously potentially with even a need for the account payable invoice related stuff that perhaps they haven't thought about.
Yeah.
One thing that has definitely accelerated since sort of COVID is the change in composition of a lot of people's businesses. For example, like we deal with a lot more B2B clients now, where previously you would meet people at conferences and have long sales cycles and face to face and all the rest of it. 2 years of not being able to see each other has meant that that's been forced into the digital arena, just like e-commerce. What has changed, or what sort of types of clients are Tipalti helping? Because the value add is pretty obvious, right? Anyone that's in the business of making invoice payments or payments that haven't got an invoice, they would need to use a service like Tipalti, particularly at scale, which we can come on to. But what kind of clients are you dealing with, and how many clients does Tipalti have in total?
Great question. So Balti currently services north of 2,000 customers globally. The mix is, I mean, I would say one third of those are digital GPP, global partner payment customers, so non-invoice backed,
Mm-hmm.
and two-thirds are account payable. That's in the
Mm.
number of customers. In the number on the magnitude of the payments, well, the GPP payments far outweigh the accounts payable. because they're at scale, as you said. Who do we serve and what profiles? Well, typically for accounts payable use cases only, we tend to focus on software tech businesses that are looking to scale. These are fast-growing businesses with ambition. They are potentially looking at expanding into new markets. They want to, let's say, launch in the US, the UK, and have a side hustle of expanding into Europe at the same time, whilst trying to run their business. These guys are really, really kind of effective and high productivity businesses that want to grow fast. They have growing pains. And those growing pains are such that if they enter a new market and they need to spend a lot of time making sure that their bills can be paid or their influences can be paid, well, that's the hurdle for them that they need to overcome. And the last thing they want to do is stop that growth travelator to spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks trying to make sure that they can manage payments in a particular geography. They just want to run.
Yeah.
And I think Tipalti gives them the legs to do that, right? We say, look, you focus on running your business. You can use Tipalti to manage the payables elements without fear, without worry, without concern that it won't work. So as a business, we can make payments to 196 different countries in 120 currencies. We've not had the situation yet where somebody said, look, I want to make a payment here, and we've had to say no. We can't send payments there, and I think that's really an attractive tool for a business, that they know that they've got the coverage globally. Wherever they want to go, Tipalti can go with them. One of the reasons why we've got about 98% customer retention from our customers. So once customers start using Tipalti, they typically don't end up leaving us, because we scale with them. We help them grow globally.
And those growing pains is a good thing. So to sort of like add some value to people that are listening, what are the early warning signs that your current systems without automation are likely to break further down the line? I mean, I guess we've touched on a couple there, right? If you're planning on expanding into different markets, or if you're growing your partner program rapidly, the onset of that, or the natural thing that follows that, is all the payments. What other kind of warning signs have you seen where people are aware that they need a solution like Tipalti, but haven't been able to sort of enunciate it, to sort of crystallize why they need you?
Yeah, so whether we're talking about AP or not, accounts payable or not here, these symptoms, so to speak, are the same, right? And they very much are people in the department that manage payments. You can see that they are overworked. They're probably disenfranchised. They're not happy. You might have high staff turnover in these departments, because people start at the business and think, I don't know, I've done a finance degree, or I've done a load of education and invested in myself. I don't want to be managing, somebody's given me the wrong bank details and spending 3 hours trying to resolve a problem like that. So I think that's a telltale sign. The other one is just looking at the business and looking at their profile. If a business has received recent investment, they're going to want that. They're going to have that pop moment where they're going to want to expand quickly. When you're in that pop moment, you're growing very fast. That's so. The last thing you want at that point in time is to then start looking at this and thinking, now that's too late to start thinking about, where might I go? So if you're a business that's looking to expand, you've received investment, or you've got plans to expand globally, or enter new markets even within the same geography you're in, and you know that you're perhaps recruiting more staff in other parts of the business, and you can see there's something happening, and there's some pressure, positive pressure being built up in the business for something big. Well, that's a perfect opportunity to make sure that everything's greased appropriately, so when the action does happen, it flows smoothly.
That's a fascinating point. These soft signals of people being unhappy or people leaving, which goes to that point that you mentioned earlier on, better living through automation helps people to focus on tasks that can't be done by machines. And often, people that are in finance are pretty well qualified, and they're doing an important job. And if at the end of the day, they are just simply rubber stamping things, or, doing administrative, clerical sort of tasks, they can become bored. So that's a really good one, I think. So if you're a CEO listening to this, and you're hiring people at increasingly lower rates because you can't retain that talent because the work doesn't demand that level, or people are leaving, Yeah, this is a good talking point, right?
Yeah, and look, your staff will tell you, right?
Mm.
And if you're fortunate enough to be a CEO or a CFO in your business, you'll have got there by listening to people and being able to sense what the feeling is inside your organization. You'll know that people are unhappy, and imagine that the workforce is getting younger all the time by definition. Every year the workforce gets younger. Um, so the staff that are coming in, they want tools. They want modern tools. You wouldn't expect to give somebody a pen and paper and say, "Here you go and do your job." No, they want computers. They want the latest tech. They want this. They want that. And I think that that leads to higher productivity, and that leads to greater fulfillment. Automation added on top of that, well, now you've got a really great situation where businesses feel like staff within those businesses feel like they've been invested in, and they make that leap. They start to think, look, how can I be more productive? How can I elevate my value from manual processes or fairly, I suppose, I don't want to call them the negative word, but brain dead processes where you're not really having to apply yourself to, well, hang on, I can really now apply my skills, my learnings, my education, and think of great ideas to help my employer, my business grow and
Yeah.
compete and get onto the stage.
And that I was just going to ask you that. So let's say we've got the symptoms that you outlined earlier of a potentially flawed financial process of making payments through invoices or non-invoices. You provide that solution. What does sort of like after the treatment, after the Tipalti treatment, what does the outlook look like for well-functioning finance teams? What are those people spending their time doing in the absence of manual stuff? Have you got
Oh,
any kind of ways of sharing
yes,
that?
of course, yes. So if we're talking about finance departments, well, finance has always been known as a cost center. It by that I mean you employ finance people and they don't generate money themselves. They don't generate anything. They're a cost to the business. Whereas you might see a sales function as a profit center because you hire them for X and they bring you in Y, and then you hope Y is larger than X, otherwise it doesn't work. So increasingly now, the individuals that are benefiting from automation, they can do more fulfilling stuff. What does that fulfilling stuff look like? It's more strategy work. It's more analysis on their own business. For example, we've seen finance departments be able to spend more time looking at analytics and reports and being able to turn around to their sales teams and say, guys and girls, do you know on a Tuesday you do much better than you do on a Thursday? So why don't you do whatever you're doing on a Tuesday more and less of what you're doing on a Thursday every day? And it's that kind of analytical insight into a business that helps them get productivity and spread that productivity across all areas of the business. And I think that's a really critical point here. The other thing is mergers and acquisitions and growth. Okay, so as businesses grow, there is M&A and activity. People are looking to acquire businesses. They're looking to seek investment. Well, the finance department or the department that manages payables, they can be critical in that, and they can formulate pitches. They can analyze their own business. They can talk to investors, and they can be almost more of an outbound facing contact point with the business rather than just the CEO or the salespeople or the marketing department. And I think it's covering it, it's getting more hooks into the market effectively that make a company bigger and stronger.
Mm. And just as sort of closing sort of thoughts, like where do you see the future of Tipalti, and where do you see the future of this type of automation as it relates specifically to finance and the next things that will come from this?
That's a great question. So currently we automate payables. Expenses will be the next thing. So staff expenses can be automated. Financing, so loans, I think things like that will become. You may not need to go through an extended process with a mortgage one day, right? I mean, I'm talking at a very, retail level here rather than business level. I think there's huge scope for automation of any task that it can be done, a repetitive task that requires a number of rules and process to be followed. And if you think about it in a business, that is things like managing money, managing financial elements, reporting, accounting, tax, there's a huge swathe of these processes that require currently people. And as those people become more elevated and the tech supports that, we will find more and more automation coming in. So I think they're the key areas that I would recommend are gonna automate in the future. Who knows? One day we might even expand to new areas such as sales and marketing. There are marketing automation platforms out there already. There are even sales automation platforms out there. And I think this is a really effective way of taking out the manual. I think that's the theme here. It's taking out the manual process and elevating yourself as a result.
Well, that seems a positive note to end on. Deepak, thanks very much for joining us today. And yeah, it's been great. And if people want to get hold of you, how can they find you?
Well, they can contact you, of course, and you'll be happy to introduce them to me. But otherwise, they can just contact me at my email address, which is deepak.goyal, that's Goyal at the end, at tipalti.com. If you just drop the main website a note saying you'd like to contact me on that contact us page, that'll get through to me as well. I have got a phone number if you're in the UK. That's +4479.
We won't publish that here.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe I'll just put that in an email. Okay, good shout. Yeah, but if you do need my phone number, then Zach's got it, and you can connect with me anytime.
Okay, always a pleasure speaking to you. Take it easy.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciated that today. See you later. Bye bye.